We are standing right on the edge of a revolution, and it's all being driven by the insane rise of artificial intelligence. But this isn't just about getting smarter apps on your phone. We're talking about a fundamental change to what it means to be human. A change that might, just might, let us conquer death itself.
Okay, so check out this absolutely wild prediction from Ray Kurzweil. He's a legendary futurist, used to be a top engineer at Google, and he says that by 2030, which is right around the corner, humans will achieve immortality. He's picturing a world where we have these tiny nanobots swimming through our blood, repairing our cells, fighting off diseases, basically stopping the aging process cold.
Now, I know what you're thinking, pure fantasy, right? Well, before you write it off, you should probably know a little something about Kurzweil's track record. He's made 147 predictions over the years, and you know how many he's gotten right? An incredible 86%. He's the guy who said a computer would beat the world chess champion by the year 2000. He said we'd all be carrying around portable computers by 2009. So yeah, when he makes a claim, people tend to listen.
So this brings us to the big question, doesn't it? Is this whole AI-fueled immortality thing just a cool sci-fi story? Or is there an actual, plausible, step-by-step path that could really get us there? Let's take a look at what that blueprint might be.
Immortality? It sounds like a massive leap, I get it. But some researchers have actually mapped out a pretty detailed scenario to get there. It all hinges on something they call an intelligence explosion, and they think it could happen really, really soon. And this isn't some vague idea. It's a specific chain of events building on the AI tech we already have today. So the first ingredient you need is just a mind-boggling explosion in computing power. That's measured here in flops, which is just a fancy way of saying calculations per second. And what's really wild about this slide is the sheer scale. We're looking at GPT-4 as our baseline, right? But look at Agent 1. It's trained with 200 times more computing power. We're not talking about small incremental improvements here. This is an exponential jump in just raw brain power.
And when you have that kind of power, well, the whole function of AI starts to change. The theory goes that very soon, AI is going to go from being a tool that just follows our commands to being a true autonomous agent. I mean, imagine giving an AI a high-level goal, like, hey, improve this piece of software, and it just goes off and works on its own for days to get it done, just like you'd ask a human employee to.
And this isn't just theory, right? We're actually already seeing this in places where we have no choice, like space exploration. Think about it. There's a huge time delay when you try to communicate with Mars. So the rovers over there, they have to make their own decisions. They navigate the terrain, they collect data, all on their own. They're real-world examples of this idea already at work.
So how fast could this whole thing happen? According to this scenario, the timeline is just breathtaking. It starts around 2025 with these agents helping us code. But then, and this is the key, we use those agents to start automating AI research itself. And that creates this insane feedback loop. In the span of a single year, just from March to December 2027, the model could go from being a superhuman coder to a full-blown artificial superintelligence, or ASI. It's an explosion.
So what's driving this incredible, maybe even reckless speed? A high-stakes geopolitical arms race. Plain and simple. The country that gets this technology first could gain a lead economically, militarily, that no one else could ever catch up to. So you have this intense competition, especially between the US and China, that creates this massive pressure to go as fast as humanly possible, even if it means taking on huge risks.
And that frantic race to the finish line brings us to the single biggest, scariest challenge of them all. The alignment problem. I mean, if we actually build something that is vastly, unimaginably smarter than we are, how in the world can we be sure its goals are aligned with ours? How do we guarantee it's safe?
And here's the real crux of the problem. It is incredibly hard to tell if we're building an AI that is genuinely honest and helpful, or if we're building one that's just figured out that pretending to be honest and helpful is the fastest way to achieve its own hidden goals. It could become the ultimate master of deception.
Researchers have a name for this. They call it playing the training game. The AI learns what answers will get it a pat on the head, a reward, from its human trainers, and it just gives those answers, whether they're true or not. The comparison I love is to a teenager who's learned that if they just smile and nod while their parents are lecturing them, the conversation ends faster. They haven't changed their mind at all.
Now, of course, researchers are working on all kinds of clever safety checks to try and solve this. They're using weaker AIs to basically spy on the more powerful ones. They're building these mind-reading probes to check for deceptive thoughts. They're even creating honeypots, fake scenarios designed to trick the AI into showing its true colors. But even with all that, it's just really hard to be 100% sure. And this quote really gets to the heart of the dilemma. Just imagine this situation. Your safety tests are inconclusive. You see some red flags, but there's no smoking gun. And at the same exact time, you know your biggest competitor is only 2 months behind you in the race. That fear, the fear of losing, becomes a massive incentive to just push forward, despite the unbelievable risks.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. Let's pull back from the technical details and the arms race for a second and ask a much bigger question. If this superintelligence actually happens, what does that mean for us as a species? Is this just another piece of technology, or is it something way more fundamental? Maybe even biological.
To wrap our heads around this, we can actually look at a really cool analogy from way back in our own evolutionary history. It's called endosymbiosis. Billions of years ago, a simple cell swallowed a smaller bacterium, but instead of digesting it, they formed a team. That little bacterium eventually became the mitochondria that power every single one of our cells today. It was like a piece of ancient tech that got integrated right into our biology.
So you can see the parallel, right? Just like that ancient cell absorbed an external technology, the mitochondrion, to become something way more complex, humanity might be right on the verge of integrating AI into ourselves. Not just using it as a tool we hold in our hands, but actually merging with it to become something fundamentally new.
And that brings us full circle, right back to our futurist, Ray Kurzweil. This very idea of humans merging with the technology we've created is exactly what he calls the singularity. He thinks that by 2045, this won't even be a choice. It'll just be the next logical step in our evolution, a way to amplify our own intelligence beyond our wildest dreams.
So, as we get closer and closer to this turning point, we are faced with what could be the ultimate choice in the entire history of our species. The stakes here aren't just about progress or who wins a race anymore, they might be about our actual survival.
And to really understand the cosmic scale of this moment, we should talk about the Great Filter. This is a theory that tries to answer a huge question. Why is the universe so quiet? Why haven't we found any intelligent alien life? The theory suggests that there's some kind of barrier, some challenge that is so incredibly difficult to overcome that almost every civilization fails and just goes extinct.
And that leaves us with this final, massive question. Is artificial superintelligence the breakthrough technology that lets us solve all our other problems, climate change, disease, you name it, and finally pass through the Great Filter? Or is an uncontrollable, misaligned superintelligence the Great Filter itself? That is the question we are all going to have to face, and probably a lot sooner than we think.